I need you to leave the house. Tonight. Lily stood in the doorway of what she believed was their modest two-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, staring at the man she'd shared a bed with for 10 years. Her hands weren't shaking. Her voice wasn't breaking. That surprised her almost as much as what she discovered 3 hours ago. David looked up from his laptop, confusion crossing his face. The same face that had told her countless times they couldn't afford a vacation, couldn't upgrade their ancient car, couldn't even splurge on decent coffee. What, Lily, what are you talking about? She held up her phone, screen facing him. On it was a bank statement. Not the joint account they used for groceries and utilities, a different account. An account with a balance that made her stomach turn. $4.7 million. Want to explain this? Her voice was steady, cold. Or should I start with the beach house in the Hamptons? The investment portfolio. The luxury car registered under your mother's name that you've been driving to work every Tuesday? The color drained from David's face. How did I find out? Lily laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's your first question, not, I'm sorry, or, I can explain. Just shocked that I finally figured out you've been lying to me for our entire marriage. My name is Lily Chen, and until 3 hours ago, I was a 34-year-old woman who believed she was married to a struggling freelance graphic designer. A woman who worked 2 jobs to keep our household afloat. A woman who wore thrift store clothes and skipped meals so her husband could invest in his career. A woman who was, apparently, the biggest fool in New York City. David stood up slowly, his hands raised like he was approaching a wild animal. Lily, baby, let me explain. It's not what you think. Really. She pulled up another photo on her phone. Because this email from your financial advisor suggests you've been hiding assets since before we got married. This text thread with your college buddy shows you laughing about how I have no idea who I'm really married to. And this, her voice finally cracked. This receipt shows you spent $15,000 on a watch last month while I was selling my grandmother's jewelry to cover what I thought was our rent. The apartment suddenly felt too small, too suffocating. Lily had scrubbed these floors on her hands and knees. Had patched the holes in the walls with YouTube tutorials because they couldn't afford a handyman. Had defended David to her family when they questioned why a man in his mid-30s couldn't seem to hold down a steady job. It was a test, David said quietly. Excuse me? I needed to know you loved me for me. Not for my money. He actually looked like he believed this made sense. My ex-wife only wanted me for what I could provide. I needed to know you were different. Lily stared at him. 10 years. 10 years of struggling, sacrificing, wondering if they'd make rent. 10 years of telling herself that love was enough, that material things didn't matter. 10 years of being tested like a lab rat while he watched her suffer. Your test, she said slowly, involved watching me work 70-hour weeks? Watching me cry over bills? Watching me apologize to my parents for not being able to afford to visit them for Christmas? I was going to tell you, David insisted. Once I was sure. Sure of what? That I'd passed your sick little experiment? Lily's laugh was sharp, bitter. Congratulations, David. I passed. I loved you when I thought you had nothing. I supported you, believed in you, sacrificed everything for you. And now I know the truth. You're not a struggling artist. You're just cruel. David's expression shifted then, something cold sliding behind his eyes. You're overreacting. So I have money. That's a good thing. We can finally start living the life you deserve. The life I deserve? Lily's voice rose. I deserve the truth. I deserved a partner, not a puppeteer. She thought back to all the signs she'd missed or ignored. The way David never seemed stressed about money despite having no visible income. How his clothes, while simple, were always somehow pristine, never worn at the seams like hers. The mysterious networking events he attended while she covered double shifts at the diner. The new phone that appeared every year while hers was held together with duct tape. Just last week, she'd asked if they could afford marriage counseling. David had sighed, pulled up their joint account with its pathetic $3,000 balance, and said, We need to be realistic about our financial situation. Lil. Meanwhile, he had millions. Actual millions. I want you out, Lily repeated. Tonight. This is my apartment, David said. And there was an edge to his voice now. Technically, you have no legal right to kick me out. Your apartment? Lily felt something crystallize inside her. Right. Because I've been paying what I thought was our rent into your pocket this whole time, haven't I? That landlord you always dealt with, let me guess, not real? David had the grace to look away. Get out. Lily's voice was ice. Or I'm calling every person we know and telling them exactly what kind of man you are. You wouldn't. Try me. They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, David grabbed his jacket. Fine. I'll give you space to cool down. But Lily, you're throwing away a fortune over your pride. Think about that. When the door closed behind him, Lily sank onto the couch they'd found on the street corner. The couch she'd helped David carry up 3 flights of stairs while he complained about pulling a muscle. The couch that he could have replaced with a single phone call and a fraction of his hidden wealth. She pulled out her phone and opened the email from David's financial advisor that she'd intercepted earlier. There was so much more than just bank accounts. Property holdings, investment portfolios, business partnerships, a whole shadow life she'd never known existed. But there was something else in those emails. References to the plan and the arrangement. Mentions of a prenup she'd never signed because David said they were too poor to afford a lawyer. Questions from the advisor about when she would find out. This wasn't just about hiding money. This was calculated, orchestrated. And if she was reading between the lines correctly, she wasn't the first woman David had done this to. Lily opened her laptop and started taking screenshots. If David wanted to play games, she'd show him what happened when you underestimated the woman who'd survived 10 years of his lies. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Trust me, what happens next will make this discovery look like child's play. Because Lily Chen wasn't just angry. She was done being poor. And she had a decade of rage to fuel what came next. For the next 3 days, David sent flowers. Expensive ones. Roses that cost more than Lily used to spend on groceries for an entire month. The cards were always the same. Let's talk. I love you. She threw them in the dumpster behind the building without reading past the first one. What David didn't know was that Lily had spent those 3 days doing something he'd never expected from his simple, struggling wife. She'd hired a forensic accountant. Not just any accountant. Rebecca Torres had a reputation for dismantling the finances of lying, cheating spouses. Her tagline was, I find what they hide. She cost $500 an hour, money Lily didn't have, but Rebecca had agreed to work on contingency after hearing Lily's story. This is extensive, Rebecca said during their second meeting, spreading documents across her desk. Your husband didn't just hide money. He created an entire financial ecosystem designed to keep you in the dark. Lily leaned forward, studying the papers. Her head throbbed from lack of sleep, but she forced herself to focus. The apartment you've been living in? Rebecca continued. He owns the building. Has owned it for 8 years. You've been paying rent into an LLC he controls. That money went straight into one of his investment accounts. The coffee Lily had been drinking suddenly tasted like acid. The freelance graphic design business? Rebecca's expression was somewhere between impressed and disgusted. Completely fabricated. He does own a design agency, but it's a multi-million-dollar operation in Manhattan. He has 12 employees. He's been going to a real office this entire time, probably changing clothes in his car. Lily thought about all the times David came home in his work clothes, old jeans, vintage t-shirts, always looking slightly rumpled. How he'd complain about difficult clients and tight deadlines. How she'd massage his shoulders and tell him things would get better. She'd been his therapist, his cheerleader, his safety net, while he played dress up with poverty. There's more, Rebecca said, her voice dropping. I found a Reddit thread from 6 years ago. A woman describing a situation almost identical to yours. Husband hiding wealth, pretending to struggle. Testing her love. The details are too specific to be coincidence. Lily's blood went cold. Did she say what happened? The thread ends abruptly. But I tracked her down through some digital footwork. Rebecca slid a printed screenshot across the desk. She divorced him after 2 years. Got nothing in the settlement because she couldn't prove the hidden assets existed. By the time she figured out how to look, he'd moved everything offshore. The woman in the profile picture looked exhausted, defeated. Lily wondered if she looked the same way now. He's done this before, Lily said slowly. This is his pattern. It appears so. The question is, what do you want to do about it? What did she want? Lily had spent the last 72 hours cycling through every emotion known to humanity. Rage, grief, humiliation, betrayal. But underneath it all was something else. Something that had kept her alive through 10 years of exploitation. Stubbornness. Lily Chun hadn't grown up with money, but she'd grown up with grit. Her parents had immigrated from Taiwan with 2 suitcases and a dream. Her mother had cleaned houses while studying for her nursing certification at night. Her father had worked 3 jobs to put Lily through college. They taught her that hard work meant something. That sacrifice built character. That honesty was the foundation of love. David had weaponized all of those values against her. I want everything documented, Lily said, her voice steady. Every account, every property, every lie. I want to know exactly how much he's worth and exactly how long he's been playing me. Rebecca smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Now we're talking. Over the next week, Lily maintained a careful facade. She responded to David's texts with short, neutral messages. Yes, they could talk. Soon. She needed time. She wasn't ready. Meanwhile, she was building a case. Rebecca discovered that David came from serious money. His family owned a commercial real estate empire. His trust fund alone was worth $8 million, separate from everything he'd earned himself. He'd never needed to work a day in his life, yet he'd watched Lily destroy her health working double shifts. Why? Lily asked during one of their meetings. I don't understand the point. What did he gain from this? Control, Rebecca said simply. Power. The satisfaction of knowing he could shape your entire reality. Some people get off on that. Lily thought about their relationship with new eyes. How David had always been supportive, never cruel. Never raised his voice, never insulted her directly. He'd been the perfect struggling artist husband, grateful for her support, apologetic about his situation. But he'd watched her suffer, deliberately. For a decade. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening. David had texted asking to meet for dinner. We need to talk about our future. My treat. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so sickening. Lily agreed to meet him at a small Italian place in their neighborhood. She arrived early, wearing one of her thrift store dresses, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked exactly like the woman David thought he knew. He showed up 15 minutes late, apologetic, wearing the same casual outfit that probably cost more than her monthly salary. He kissed her cheek, and Lily had to suppress a shudder. I've missed you, David said, reaching across the table for her hand. Lily let him take it. We need to discuss what happens next. I know. And I want you to know. I'm ready to come clean about everything. No more secrets. He smiled, warm and genuine looking. I've been talking to my therapist, and he helped me understand how wrong I was. The test, the hiding, it was toxic. I see that now. Your therapist, Lily repeated. Dr. Morrison, I've been seeing him for years. He's been helping me work through my trust issues from my first marriage. Lily filed that away. He'd been paying for therapy while claiming they couldn't afford her insulin copays. I want to make this right, David continued. I'm thinking we could renew our vows. Do it properly this time. And I'll add you to all the accounts. Full transparency going forward. He pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring. Not the simple silver band he proposed with 10 years ago, claiming it was all he could afford. This was a diamond. Multiple carats. Sparkling under the restaurant lights. What do you say, Lil? Fresh start? Lily looked at the ring. At David's hopeful expression. At the waiter hovering nearby, clearly clued in to what was happening. She thought about the Reddit thread. The woman who'd gotten nothing. She thought about her parents, who'd built something real from nothing. She thought about Rebecca's words. He's done this before. Can I ask you something? Lily said quietly. Anything. The first year we were together. When I got laid off from my marketing job, I was devastated, remember? I thought I'd ruined everything. David nodded. Of course I remember. We got through it together. I applied to 43 positions that month. Got rejected from all of them. I was sure it was because I wasn't good enough. Lily paused. Was that you? Was what me? Did you sabotage my job search? The flicker in David's eyes lasted only a second, but it was enough. Don't be ridiculous, he said, laughing. How would I even do that? You went to Columbia Business School. Your family has connections all over New York. It wouldn't be hard to make a few calls. Drop a few warnings about a problematic candidate. Lily, you're being paranoid. Am I? She pulled her hand away. Because Rebecca Torres, she's the forensic accountant I hired. By the way, she found some interesting emails. Correspondence between you and several HR directors. Warnings about me. How I was emotionally unstable and financially irresponsible. David's expression hardened. You hired an investigator? Are you insane? You kept me poor and desperate for 10 years. Who's insane? I gave you a home. I supported You gave me nothing. Lily's voice cut through the restaurant chatter. Nearby diners turned to look. You took everything. My time, my health, my dignity. You watched me destroy myself and called it love. David leaned back, his mask slipping. You know what your problem is, Lily? You're ungrateful. Do you have any idea how many women would kill to be in your position? Married to a millionaire, about to inherit a fortune? Inherit? Lily laughed. You really think I'm that stupid? There's no prenup because you never intended to share anything. This whole reconciliation, it's just another test. Another game. You're being hysterical. No. Lily stood up. I'm being smart. Finally. As she walked away, David called after her. You'll get nothing in the divorce. My lawyers will bury you. You signed the apartment lease, the car loan, the credit cards all in your name. Legally, you're the one in debt. I'm just a poor freelancer, remember? Lily turned back and her smile was cold. We'll see about that. Because what David didn't know was that Rebecca had already filed preliminary paperwork. That Lily had been recording every conversation for the past week. That the forensic audit was nearly complete, and the evidence of fraud was overwhelming. David thought he was playing chess while Lily played checkers. He had no idea she'd flipped the board. The next morning, Lily moved out of the apartment. Not because David told her to, but because Rebecca had found something extraordinary. He doesn't just own the building you've been living in, Rebecca said, pulling up property records on her laptop. He owns 17 buildings across Brooklyn and Manhattan. Combined value? Approximately $47 million. They were sitting in Rebecca's office, surrounded by documents that painted a picture of David's shadow empire. Lily had barely slept, surviving on coffee and cold fury. Here's what's interesting. Rebecca continued, highlighting a section. 3 of those buildings are registered under shell companies. But the paperwork has inconsistencies. Signature discrepancies, date irregularities. I think he committed fraud to hide them during his first divorce. Lily's pulse quickened. Can we prove it? With the right lawyer, absolutely. Which brings me to our next move. Rebecca slid a business card across the desk. Jennifer Wu. She specializes in high net worth divorces where one party has been financially abused. She's aggressive, brilliant, and she hates men like David. The card was simple, elegant. Jennifer Wu, attorney at law. Below it. I don't just win cases. I demolish them. She's expensive, Rebecca warned. Everything worth having is, Lily said, pocketing the card. That afternoon, Lily met Jennifer in a glass-walled conference room overlooking Central Park. Jennifer was in her 50s, impeccably dressed, with eyes that looked like they could dissect a lie from across the room. Rebecca sent me your case file, Jennifer said without preamble. Your husband is a piece of work. That's putting it mildly. Here's what we're going to do. Jennifer opened a folder. First, we file for divorce citing fraud and financial abuse. Then we immediately freeze his assets with a temporary restraining order. He won't be able to move money, sell property, or hide anything else. Lily felt a flicker of hope. He said his lawyers would bury me. His lawyers are corporate attorneys who handle real estate deals. I handle war. Jennifer's smile was sharp. David thinks you're a victim. That's his mistake. We're going to turn this case into a public spectacle. By the time I'm done, everyone will know exactly what he did. Won't that hurt me too? In the short term? Maybe. But you're not the one with a reputation to protect. He is. His family business depends on their philanthropic image. Scandal would be catastrophic for them. Over the next 2 weeks, Lily became someone she barely recognized. She stopped working her 2 jobs, claiming illness, and dedicated every waking hour to building her case. Rebecca and Jennifer worked like synchronized machines, uncovering layers of David's deception. But Lily also found an unexpected ally, David's first wife. Her name was Michelle Reeves. She lived in Boston now, working as a financial consultant. When Lily called her, there was a long pause after she explained who she was. He married you too, Michelle finally said. Did he do the poverty test? 10 years of it. Mine was only 2. I guess you're more patient than me. Michelle's laugh was bitter. Let me guess. He's acting confused about why you're upset. Offering to fix things while his lawyers prepare to destroy you. Exactly. I have something you need to see. Can you come to Boston? Lily took a train up the next day. Michelle met her at a coffee shop near Fenway Park, carrying a thick manila envelope. After our divorce, I spent 3 years documenting everything about David, Michelle said, sliding the envelope across the table. His patterns, his shell companies, his family connections. I couldn't use it then because my lawyer was incompetent. But you have Rebecca Torres. She know what to do with this. Inside were bank statements, property deeds, email printouts, a roadmap of David's financial crimes going back 15 years. Why are you helping me? Lily asked. Because he needs to be stopped. And because I see myself in you. Michelle leaned forward. That exhaustion in your eyes. I had it too. He doesn't just steal money, Lily. He steals years. Makes you doubt your sanity. I want to watch him fall. He told me you only wanted him for his money. Of course he did. That's the narrative he sells to justify his cruelty. Michelle stirred her coffee. The truth? I left him because I found out he was sabotaging my career the same way he did yours. I was a portfolio manager at a major firm. Started noticing my clients leaving, deals falling through. Took me months to trace it back to him. What did you do? I walked away with nothing. Figured cutting my losses was better than staying married to a sociopath. Michelle's expression hardened. But now I want him to pay. Use everything in that envelope. Burn his world down. Back in New York, Rebecca pored over Michelle's evidence like an archaeologist discovering lost treasure. This is incredible. He's been running the same con for over a decade. Different women, same playbook. How many others? Lily asked. At least 3 that I can confirm, all ended in divorce. All got nothing in the settlement. Rebecca looked up. But here's the thing. Michelle's evidence combined with our findings, we can prove a pattern of fraud. That changes everything. Jennifer was even more enthusiastic. With this, we're not just winning a divorce. We're potentially looking at criminal charges, wire fraud, tax evasion, possibly RICO if we can prove he coordinated with family members to hide assets. Lily sat in Jennifer's office, staring at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, David was probably having lunch at an expensive restaurant, confident that his poor, naive wife would eventually cave. He had no idea what was coming. There's one more thing, Jennifer said carefully. David's mother, Eleanor Thornton. She's been financing his lifestyle and helping hide assets. If we go after David, we go after her too. The family will turn this into a war. Good, Lily said. Let them. Because she'd realized something over the past few weeks. David hadn't just stolen from her. He'd stolen her 20s, her early 30s, her confidence, her sense of self-worth. He'd watched her sacrifice everything and felt nothing. That kind of cruelty deserved more than a divorce settlement. It deserved annihilation. The following Monday, David called. We need to talk. My lawyer wants to expedite things. I'm willing to offer you a generous settlement. $500,000. The car, and I'll cover your moving expenses. Lily almost laughed. $500,000 from a man worth over $50 million. What about the apartment? She asked, playing along. That's complicated. It's tied up in investments. But I can help you find a nice place, maybe in Queens. How generous. I'm trying to be fair, Lily. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I'll think about it. After hanging up, she forwarded the call recording to Jennifer with a single text. He just offered me 1% of what he's worth. Jennifer's response was immediate. Perfect. Judges hate obvious lowball offers. See you in court Friday. Friday. That's when they'd file the official paperwork. When David's carefully constructed world would start crumbling. Lily spent that week moving into a small studio apartment that Rebecca had helped her find paid for by a loan from Jennifer against future settlement earnings. It was tiny, barely furnished, but it was hers. No lies, no tests, no invisible landlord collecting rent. She also did something else. She created a blog. Financial abuse. My story went live Thursday night. She didn't use David's name, Jennifer's advice, but she detailed everything. The fake poverty, the hidden millions, the psychological manipulation. She included screenshots of his lowball settlement offer next to Rebecca's estimated value of his assets. By Friday morning, the blog had 50,000 views. By noon, it had 200,000. David called 17 times. She ignored everyone. At 2 p.m., Jennifer filed the divorce petition in Manhattan Supreme Court. The request included a full forensic accounting, asset freeze, and deposition of David's entire family. At 2:15, David's lawyer called Jennifer. This is outrageous. Your client is clearly unstable. My client is a woman who was systematically defrauded for 10 years. Your client is a con artist. See you in court. At 3 p.m., Lily received a text from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. My family will destroy you. She screenshotted it and sent it to Jennifer. Evidence of intimidation. Thank you for documenting your threats. That evening, Lily sat in her new apartment, eating takeout Chinese food, the good kind, not the budget stuff she'd survived on for years. Her phone was exploding with messages. Friends she hadn't heard from in years. Former coworkers. People from her past. But one message stood out. From her mother. Your father and I saw your blog. We're proud of you. Come home this weekend. We want to help. Lily cried for the first time since discovering David's lies. Not from sadness but relief. She wasn't alone. She'd built an army. Rebecca, Jennifer, Michelle, her parents, and thousands of strangers who'd read her story and understood. David thought he'd isolated her, made her dependent, broken her spirit. Instead, he'd forged her into something stronger, something dangerous. And next week, when they faced each other in court for the first time, he'd finally understand. The woman he'd manipulated for 10 years no longer existed. Lily Chun had been tested. And she'd passed. Now it was David's turn to fail. The courtroom was smaller than Lily expected. Intimate. Which meant David would have nowhere to hide when his world collapsed. He arrived with 3 lawyers, his mother Eleanor, and an expression that screamed confidence. He wore a tailored suit that probably cost more than Lily's annual salary during their marriage. When he saw her across the room, he smiled. Warm, familiar, like they were meeting for coffee instead of war. Lily didn't smile back. Judge Catherine Morrison entered, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and a reputation for demolishing liars. Jennifer had specifically requested her. This is a preliminary hearing for asset disclosure, Judge Morrison began. Mr. Thornton, you've been ordered to provide a complete financial statement. Have you complied? David's lead attorney stood. Your Honor, my client has provided all relevant documentation. His assets total approximately $400,000. He's a freelance designer with modest income. Jennifer rose slowly. Your Honor, that statement is a lie. We have evidence that Mr. Thornton's actual net worth exceeds $50 million. The courtroom went silent. David's lawyer sputtered. That's absurd. Where's your proof? Jennifer smiled. I'm glad you asked. What happened next was surgical. Jennifer presented bank statements showing David's real accounts. Property deeds for 17 buildings. Tax returns that contradicted his claimed poverty. Email correspondence where David discussed his social experiment with friends. But the killing blow came from an unexpected source. Your Honor, I'd like to call David Thornton to the stand. David's lawyers objected, but Judge Morrison overruled them. This is asset disclosure. He'll testify or be held in contempt. David took the stand, still projecting calm. But Lily noticed his hands. They were shaking. Mr. Thornton, Jennifer began. You claim to be a struggling freelance designer. Is that correct? Yes. Yet you own Thornton Design Solutions, a firm with 12 employees and $8 million in annual revenue. That's separate. Separate from what? Your marriage? Jennifer's voice was scalpel sharp. You told your wife you were unemployed while running a multi-million-dollar company? I never said I was unemployed. I said I freelanced. Jennifer pulled out a printed text message. This is from 3 years ago. Your wife asking if you'd found work. Your response? Still looking, baby. Things are tight. Were things tight, Mr. Thornton? Or were you depositing $200,000 checks that same week? David's jaw clenched. I was protecting my assets from your wife. The woman who worked 70-hour weeks believing you both were struggling. Jennifer moved closer. Tell me about the Reddit account under the username Social Experiment 2019. That's yours, correct? David went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because this post from 5 years ago describes a fascinating test you were running. Quote, watching someone sacrifice everything for you when they think you're broke reveals their true character. My wife has no idea I'm worth millions. It's the ultimate loyalty test. Jennifer paused. That's you, isn't it? That could be anyone. Except the IP address matches your home internet. And you mentioned specific details about your wife's job at a Brooklyn diner. Details that match Mrs. Thornton's employment exactly. The courtroom erupted. Judge Morrison banged her gavel. Eleanor Thornton stood up in the gallery. Your Honor, my son is being ambushed. This is Mrs. Thornton. Sit down or leave my courtroom. Judge Morrison's voice could cut glass. Jennifer wasn't finished. Let's talk about the apartment. Mrs. Thornton believed she was paying rent to a landlord named Mr. Chan, but Mr. Chan doesn't exist, does he? My accountant handled that. Your accountant funneled your wife's rent payments into your investment portfolio. She paid you $2,000 monthly for 10 years. That's $240,000 she gave you while believing you were both struggling. Jennifer let that sink in. How much of that did you invest in cryptocurrency? David didn't answer. I'll tell you. $180,000, which is now worth approximately $4.2 million. You used your wife's survival money to make millions while watching her skip meals to save on groceries. Lily watched David's facade crumble. His lawyers were whispering urgently. Eleanor looked ready to murder someone. And David looked trapped. There's more, Jennifer said. Mrs. Thornton, please stand. Lily stood, her heart pounding. Can you tell the court about your job search in 2019? Lily's voice was steady. I was laid off. I applied to 43 positions in 1 month. Got rejected from all of them. Why do you think that happened? I thought I wasn't qualified. That I'd failed somehow. Lily looked directly at David. But my husband had contacted every company I applied to. He told them I was emotionally unstable, unreliable. He sabotaged my entire career. That's not, David started. We have the emails, Jennifer interrupted. Sent from your personal account. We also have testimony from 3 HR directors confirming they received warnings about Mrs. Thornton from you. Judge Morrison's expression was thunderous. Mr. Thornton, did you interfere with your wife's employment? David's silence was answer enough. Furthermore, Jennifer continued. We discovered that Mr. Thornton has done this before. 2 previous marriages, same pattern. We have testimony from Michelle Reeves, his first wife, describing identical behavior. Eleanor stood again. This is a witch hunt. My son. Your son. Jennifer turned to face her. is a serial emotional abuser who uses wealth as a weapon. And you've been helping him. These documents show you've transferred $6 million to offshore accounts on his behalf. You've created shell companies to hide properties. You've even provided false testimony in his first divorce. Eleanor's face went from red to white. I want my lawyer. You'll need one, Judge Morrison said coldly. I'm ordering a full criminal investigation into both of you. Wire fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy. She turned to David. As for you, Mr. Thornton, your assets are frozen immediately. Every account, every property, every investment. You'll surrender your passport. And you'll provide Mrs. Thornton with complete financial disclosure within 48 hours or face contempt charges. Your Honor, David's lawyer tried. I'm not finished. Judge Morrison's voice was ice. I've seen a lot of cruelty in this courtroom. But what you did, Mr. Thornton, watching your wife destroy herself while you played games? That's sociopathic. I'm granting Mrs. Thornton's request for emergency spousal support. $50,000 monthly until this case is resolved. From your frozen accounts. David finally broke. She doesn't deserve a cent. She's the one who what? Loved you? Supported you? Believed your lies? Judge Morrison leaned forward. You spent 10 years committing fraud against your spouse. Every dollar you hid is marital property. Every lie you told is evidence. And I'm going to make sure she gets every penny she's owed. The hearing ended with David surrounded by lawyers, Eleanor in tears, and Lily walking out with her head high. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Lily's blog had gone viral overnight. The story of the poverty test husband was everywhere. Mrs. Thornton, how do you feel? Someone shouted. Lily paused, looked directly at the cameras and said, I feel free. For 10 years I thought I was failing. Turns out I was succeeding at an impossible test. And now the man who tested me is failing at something much simpler, being human. The clip would have 10 million views by morning. If you're watching this and you've ever felt manipulated, gaslit, or controlled by someone who claimed to love you, subscribe and share this story. Because the truth always wins. It just takes time. Back at her apartment, Lily's phone exploded with messages. But one made her laugh out loud. From Rebecca. Check David's Twitter. He's having a meltdown. David had posted. Being destroyed by lies. The system is rigged against men. My wife is a gold digger who, the post was deleted minutes later. But screenshots lived forever. Michelle texted. Watching his empire burn is better than therapy. Thank you. Jennifer called. The Dale wants to talk. They're considering criminal charges against David and Eleanor. This could be bigger than divorce court. How much bigger? Federal prison bigger. Multiple counts of fraud, conspiracy, tax evasion. We're talking decades. Lily sat in her tiny apartment, eating ice cream directly from the container, the expensive kind she'd never allowed herself before. Her phone buzzed with a notification. David's company had issued a statement distancing themselves from him. His board had voted to remove him as CEO. Everything he'd built on lies was collapsing. And tomorrow, the real work would begin. But tonight, Lily Chun was going to sleep peacefully for the first time in 10 years. Because the woman who'd been tested had passed. And the man who'd tested her had finally failed. 18 months later, Lily stood in the penthouse of a building in Tribeca, not as a visitor, as the owner. The divorce settlement had been catastrophic for David. $28 million, half of everything he'd hidden, plus damages for emotional distress and fraud. Eleanor had been forced to liquidate assets to cover her son's legal debts. The criminal charges were still pending, but David had already spent 6 months in minimum security for contempt of court. But the money wasn't what mattered most to Lily. The view is incredible, her mother said, joining her at the floor-to-ceiling windows. The Manhattan skyline stretched endlessly, glittering in the afternoon sun. It is, Lily agreed. But honestly, I prefer the studio I had during the trial. This just proves I can have it if I want it, her mother smiled. Your father always said you were too stubborn to stay down. Lily had used part of her settlement to pay off her parents' mortgage. Another portion went to Michelle Reeves, who'd been instrumental in building the case. The rest? Lily had invested in something that terrified David more than prison. She'd started a foundation. The Financial Abuse Awareness Network provided free forensic accounting and legal services to victims of economic manipulation. In just 1 year, they'd helped 127 women escape situations like Lily's. The foundation's logo was a phoenix rising from ashes, reborn stronger. Mrs. Chun? Her assistant poked her head in. The Forbes reporter is here for your interview. Lily had been featured in Forbes, Time, and the New York Times. Not as a victim, but as an advocate. Her TED Talk on financial abuse had 8 million views. She testified before Congress about closing legal loopholes that allowed people like David to hide assets. The interview went well. The reporter was particularly interested in David's downfall. He's currently living with his mother in Connecticut, Lily explained. His reputation is destroyed. His company collapsed. He'll never work in New York again. Do you feel vindicated? Lily considered the question. I feel free. Vindication implies I needed his suffering to heal. I don't. His consequences are his own. I'm just glad he can't hurt anyone else. After the reporter left, Lily checked her phone. A text from Rebecca. David tried to file an appeal. Judge Morrison denied it. He's officially broke. Lily didn't respond. She'd stopped tracking David's descent months ago. He was irrelevant now. What mattered was the work. That evening, she spoke at a shelter for domestic violence survivors. 50 women listened as she told her story, not the viral version, but the real one. The shame, the self-doubt, the moment she almost gave up. I thought poverty was my failure, Lily said. Turns out, it was his weapon. And the moment I understood that, everything changed. Not because I got money. Because I got clarity. A woman in the front row raised her hand. How did you find the strength? I didn't find it. I built it. One document at a time. One phone call at a time. One moment of refusing to believe his lies. Lily paused. Strength isn't something you have. It's something you create when you need it most. Later that night, alone in her penthouse, Lily opened her laptop. She'd been writing a book, not a memoir, but a guide. How to recognize financial abuse. How to document evidence. How to find help. Jennifer had connected her with a publisher. It would be released in 6 months. The working title, Tested. How I Survived a Decade of Deception and Reclaimed My Life. Her phone buzzed. An email from someone named Sarah. I just left my husband after reading your story. I have nothing but hope. Thank you for showing me it's possible. Lily replied immediately. You have more than hope. You have courage. And that's everything. These messages came daily now. Hundreds of women sharing their stories, asking for advice, thanking her for speaking up. Each one was a reminder that her suffering had meaning. That David's cruelty had accidentally created something beautiful. 6 months later, Lily attended David's sentencing hearing. She didn't have to. Jennifer said she could skip it. But she wanted closure. David looked shattered. The confident, charismatic man was gone, replaced by someone hollow. He'd aged years and months. Eleanor sat behind him, equally diminished. The family empire had crumbled. The Thornton name, once synonymous with success, now meant fraud. The judge sentenced David to 4 years in federal prison for tax evasion and wire fraud. Eleanor got 2 years in probation. As they were led away, David turned to look at Lily one final time. She met his eyes calmly. No anger, no triumph, just indifference. He'd wanted to break her. Instead, he'd freed her. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked how she felt. Grateful, Lily said simply. Not for what he did, but for who I became in spite of it. A year later, Lily's book hit the bestseller list. Her foundation had helped over 500 women. She'd bought her parents a house near hers. She'd reconnected with friends she'd lost during the marriage. She'd started dating again carefully, wisely, with boundaries David had never allowed. But the best moment came on a random Tuesday. Lily was at a coffee shop when she overheard 2 women talking. Did you see that documentary about Lily Chen? The one about financial abuse? Oh my God, yes. She's incredible. That husband was a monster, right? But she destroyed him. Took everything. Started a whole movement. Lily smiled into her latte. She wasn't a victim in strangers' conversations. She was a fighter. A survivor. A symbol. That evening, she donated another $1 million to the foundation. Money David had hidden, now funding freedom for others. The greatest revenge wasn't his poverty. It was her purpose. David had tested Lily's love for 10 years. He'd watched her sacrifice, struggle, and suffer. He'd thought it proved she was worthy of his wealth, but he'd been testing the wrong thing. What Lily proved wasn't that she loved him. It was that she loved herself enough to fight back, that she valued truth over comfort, that she'd risk everything for justice. And in the end, the test had revealed something David never anticipated. Lily Chen was stronger than any lie he could tell. 3 years after the divorce, Lily stood on a stage in Los Angeles, accepting an award for her advocacy work. Her parents were in the audience. So was Rebecca, Jennifer, and Michelle. An army of women who'd risen together. People ask if I regret those 10 years, Lily said into the microphone. And the truth is complicated. I regret trusting someone who didn't deserve it. But I don't regret what I learned about resilience, about justice, about the power of choosing yourself. She looked out at the audience. If you're in a relationship where someone controls your reality, makes you doubt your worth, or uses money as a weapon, leave. Document everything. Find your army. And remember, you're not being tested. You're being abused. And you deserve better. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Later, a journalist asked her final question. If you could say one thing to David now, what would it be? Lily smiled. Thank you for pushing me. Not off a cliff, but into my power. You tried to make me small. Instead, you made me unstoppable. The lesson was simple. The best revenge isn't hurting the people who hurt you. It's becoming someone they could never destroy. David spent 10 years testing Lily's love. She spent 2 years proving his cruelty. He lost everything. She gained herself. And in the end, that was the only victory that mattered. If this story moved you, if you've ever felt trapped by someone who claimed to love you, subscribe to this channel and share this message. You are not your circumstances. You are not their lies. You are the moment you choose to fight back. And that moment changes everything. Lily Chen was tested for 10 years. But in the end, she was the only one who passed.